Hey folks, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Let's talk about comparing moons in synastry, comparing your moon to your partner's moon or to anyone you're in a relationship with, a parent, a child, a sibling, a business partner. The same principles apply. So we know that the moon in the individual natal chart symbolically represents a few things. We look at the natal moon to understand the conditions that need to be present for that person to find inner emotional equilibrium and a sense of security and comfort, and how that sense of security and comfort and inner equilibrium can be challenged. In other words, if we know the conditions for equilibrium, we also know what disturbs that equilibrium, right? So we look at the natal moon in an individual's chart to understand the characteristic manner in which that person responds and reacts to life. So across the board, an Aries moon person is generally going to respond and react to life courageously, impatiently, quickly, in a forthright and direct way, in a manner that needs to release energy in this kind of pointed way. The Taurus moon person is going to react to life slowly and deliberately, maintaining a sense of poise and stability as they meet the demands of life. So the moon is the characteristic emotional or feeling response pattern. It also describes the central psychological needs of the person, and when those baseline psychological needs are fulfilled, overall the person feels a sense of inner equilibrium. So the central psychological needs of, say, a Taurus moon are the need for safety, the need for security, the need for stability and comfort, the need to maintain a zone of comfort. So these are the needs here of that Taurus moon: predictability, the need for interaction with the physical or natural environment. So as an example there, Taurus moon. So when we are in relationships with each other, especially close, intimate relationships, we are carrying our dominant response and reaction patterns, and we are carrying with us our central psychological needs, the core needs that have to be fulfilled for us to be happy and feel a sense of internal harmony. So as an example, the Capricorn moon person's need for organization and structure is going to be carried into how that Capricorn moon person shows up in relationships. So what makes that Capricorn moon feel happy, fulfilled, and satisfied is going to absolutely show up in close relationships. So, if we think about a modern Western approach to relationships with the modern focus on emotional harmony and fulfillment and satisfaction, the way that we look to our intimate relationships to provide that sense of emotional fulfillment, we see that the moon becomes really important. So the moon is especially important in terms of the modern framework of how we approach relationships, at least here in the Western world. So the moon shows up especially in the context of close, intimate relationships, especially the relationships in which we share physical domestic space. The astrological moon presides over or rules the domestic sphere, and quite appropriately. And we see that our central psychological needs are absolutely going to crop up in our immediate living environment, the place where we can truly be ourselves, the place that we are most comfortable, the place that we can let down our hair or home. That's the place where the moon's needs are really going to come forward and be seen in this overt way. So when we have two people in an intimate relationship interacting within a shared domestic space, especially, we're going to see two sets of psychological needs, two sets of reigning psychological needs stack up with each other. So because of the moon's central importance for inner emotional equilibrium, we can't at all ignore the moon in synastry, how two people's moons are stacking up against each other. So in terms of understanding how two people's moons stack up with each other, a good place to start is with the moon's elements. So the moon's elements of each person's moon on one level will show the dimension of experience that feels most real to us internally. There is an immediate feeling rapport with that dimension. So with a water moon, the dimension of experience that is most real to us on an inner level is our yearnings, our feelings. So we're comfortable in that realm. We understand it in an immediate way. If we're comparing a water moon with, let's say, a fire moon, we can begin to see that the water moon on a whole may be more feeling retentive, while the fire moon is far less retentive. So energy comes from the fire moon, while a water moon is more containing, more receptive, and more retentive. So the elements in which we find our moon and our partner's moon tell us a great deal. So another example is, let's say, a fire moon. A fire moon may bluster forward and expend emotional energy, but an earth moon, by contrast, an earth moon is going to want to create boundaries, management, and control. So we want to have a strong understanding of the baseline elemental energy of our moon and how that compares with the baseline elemental energy of our partner's moon. Now, as a general rule, the more harmony there is between two people's moons, the easier it is to establish a basis for mutual understanding between each other, so that there's less work involved to establish mutual understanding when the moons are more in sync or more in harmony. So it's easier to put yourself in the other person's shoes and to see things from their perspectives, and not seeing each other's perspective in an intellectual way or in solely an intellectual way. But when there is more harmony between two people's moons, you can put yourself in the other person's shoes and feel their point of view on an emotional level. There is more empathy in the classic sense of what that word means. So additionally, the moon presides over this thing that we call rhythm. The more out of harmony two people's moons are, the more their biological and natural psychic rhythms are also out of sync. And it's no judgment there. It's just, it doesn't mean that this is a fundamentally detrimental thing in a relationship. People find ways of bridging the gap between different rhythms, and a mature approach to relationships involves learning how to cultivate a give and take approach. So people find ways all the time of meeting the challenge of different biopsychic rhythms. And of course, we can relate this question of rhythm back to the elements. A fire moon has a different rhythm from a water moon or an earth moon. When we add on the modalities, we begin to see more of the picture. How might a mutable fire moon stack up with a fixed water moon? What can we begin to deduce based on just these factors? What dimensions of life are most real and immediate to these two moons? How would their rhythms interact? How would the rhythm of a mutable fire moon interact with the rhythm of a fixed water moon? So after that, we can begin to compare the dominant psychological needs of each moon in the equation. So let's take a couple with an Aries moon and a Capricorn moon. So one person has an Aries moon, the other person has a Capricorn moon. So it means that these moons are square each other. So the Capricorn moon is going to need to react, as we said, by establishing management and boundaries and control and structure. And the Aries moon might react more instinctively and spontaneously, and may find it challenging to understand why the Capricorn moon person always needs preparation and organization. So then we also want to add on the subtone of the house position of each moon. So let's say that one person's Aries moon is in the 8th house and the other person's Capricorn moon is in the 11th house. So with Aries moon in the 8th, the person is sensitive and reacting to deeper energetic currents or elements within the environment. That's the 8th house. So we have a fire moon in a water house, reactivity, sensitivity. Then we have our Capricorn moon, the practicality of Earth, with an undertone of detachment. The 11th house is an air house, archetypally related to Aquarius. So that 11th house Capricorn moon person, with their penchant for organization and structure and control and detachment, is going to be a little baffled by the reactivity and sensitivity of the 8th house Aries moon. So it's going to be more challenging to achieve that mutual understanding between them. The Capricorn moon doesn't fundamentally understand why the Aries 8th house moon person is so sensitive and reactive. So the 8th house moon is both absorbing and reacting. So the 8th house water subtone is absorbing, as we've said, these subtle energy currents. Now with Aries, the person is also reacting to them quickly and instinctively, that fire. The 11th house moon is not absorbing emotional, psychic content from the environment in the same kind of way. So the moon is in an air house, so it's less sticky. So part of establishing comfort and inner equilibrium for the 11th house moon person is to get some detached perspective. So we're combining the square relationship of Aries and Capricorn with the archetypal square relationship between the 8th house and the 11th house. So we're looking at all the factors here. How are they stacking up with each other? So let's add on one more subtone here in terms of aspects. So let's say that the Aries moon in the 8th house is disposited or ruled by Mars in Leo. So the person has an 8th house Aries moon ruled by Mars in Leo. So we have a lot of fire here with this moon in Aries with a Leo subtone fire. So that Aries moon is also trine Mars in Leo. So we have this fiery Aries moon with a Leo subtone trine Mars in aspect to Mars. So there's kind of double the reactivity and fire energy. So Aries moon in aspect to Mars itself, and also with this Mars in Leo. So fire subtone there. Double the reactivity and fire energy. Let's say too that the person with the Capricorn moon has the moon in aspect to Saturn. So we see an amplification of that boundary control and management principle in terms of how that Capricorn moon person is going to be responding to life. So very different from the spontaneous reactivity of the Aries moon trine Mars person. So first, we're putting moon comparison front and center in terms of looking at the energy flow between two people, because the moon tells us a great deal about what we need individually for inner equilibrium and how we fulfill our core psychological needs. So the core psychological needs will definitely show themselves in our most intimate and close relationships. So from an astrological perspective, we really want to drill down to those moons. What are the elements involved? How do the elements stack up with each other? What are the modalities here? Are we dealing with fixed earth and cardinal air? How might that relate to each other? What's the rhythm? What signs are we dealing with, and what are the underlying psychological needs of the signs that the moons are in? What is the angular relationship between my moon and my partner's moon? Are our moons opposite, square, conjunct, trine, sextile, quincunx each other? What is the angular relationship? The thing though with this is that we want to take a step back and look at things from a whole sign perspective. So let's say we have one partner's moon at 8 degrees of Aries, but then we have the other person's moon at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So technically, they're not square each other. The orb would be too wide. But when we're doing chart comparison and trying to understand how people's emotional needs are relating to each other, stacking up with each other, we can look at things from a broader whole sign perspective. So Aries, the sign of Aries, is 90 degrees away from Capricorn, and we have some archetypal tensions in that relationship regardless of the precise degrees of the moons. So we want to also take note of what the respective house positions and aspects add to the story in terms of how these moons are interacting with each other. And we want to have a sense of how each person's moon is aspected to understand what each person is bringing to the table with the condition of their moons. So a few things to think about. If you know your partner's moon, you may want to do some reflection. Perhaps journal about this to see how your moons compare. The goal here is to see if you can use the astrology to help you to come into more understanding and to help you to extend more grace and more patience to your partner, understanding in a deeper and more meaningful way how your individual wirings are stacking up with each other without making the other person wrong for having a set of needs that are different from yours. All right, so that's it from me. Hope you found this helpful. Definitely subscribe for more discussions like this, and do check out the other content on the channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, talk soon. Bye.